We've known for years in the South Bay that there has been a problem with sewage coming from Mexico.
Another large sewage spill is contaminating the Tijuana River Valley and threatening South Bay beaches.
250 million gallons of sewage on average on a rainy day comes into the San Diego coast area. And if that was a swimming pool, would you go swimming in it? In our area where our families go, our kids go. Something has to be done.
We have to turn to a mentality of being proactive and stop the reactive, because reactive doesn't work when it talks about pollution, because we have small children. I weigh 215 pounds. I could suck in a lot of junk and live.
When you know that something's being done and it's been being done for so long, we need to know from our local officials what's being done and when it's going to be done. I think now is the time to really refocus with all the craziness going on in the world with the pandemic, and then also now with this whole border crisis that's going on. This still needs to be not forgotten about. We need to check and find out what's being done.
24 hours in, Mexico can't give us an answer. That's not acceptable. So now you're looking at a flow of over 1 million gallons that has come across the border, and it's made it this far and beyond.
I would take my family to the beaches a lot in the past. I have friends also, like myself, we're just not going there anymore. We don't trust the ocean. We don't trust the quality of the air on the beach. You feel almost like you can't relax there because in the back of your mind, you're wondering if you're going to get an illness of some kind. So I can't just turn my back and act like it's not a problem. Unfortunately, in this time and age, there always has to be a rock bottom scenario where people have to hit a rock bottom. And I don't want to see something happen that's a health crisis that affects a lot of people in San Diego or in our communities, because we've been told for a while about this. And if we're not taking care of the problem now, when are we going to take care of it?
The Tijuana River crisis, the U.S.-Mexico border pollution crisis, has been worse than ever. In fact, I had more complaints from residents about the stench of sewage, about the problems from water pollution and beach closures than I did for anything related to COVID, not even close. People were suffering from COVID. They may have been suffering more from problems with water pollution. And that's because the stench of sewage, it was so bad for 9 months last year. 50 million gallons a day in the Tijuana River of concentrated sewage and toxic waste, that the stench of sewage was everywhere in the air for miles and miles. It permeated in their homes and made them sick.
The biggest contributing factor as to why this issue has yet to be solved in a very meaningful way is that you have the old government salute, which is finger pointing. Of course, this is an issue that involves 2 different nations. It involves also the state of California. We have 3 different cities that this issue affects. It involves the county of San Diego, and it also involves the US national government. So we have all these overlapping jurisdictions, and no one has really stepped up to take responsibility for solving the issue.
In November 2019, we had some really big rain in San Diego. It may have rained for half an hour, but it resulted in the rupture of sewage pipes in Tijuana and sewage pump stations. And so essentially they use that as an excuse to discharge the entire sewer system of Tijuana into the Tijuana River and let it flow for months and months and months without fixing anything. And because the COVID crisis happened, no one in the United States government bothered to help Mexico get anything fixed. So it was really, really bad. It's gotten worse, and it's clearly we're at a crisis point where things have to be fixed sooner than later.
The effects on the habitat for the animals, are pretty obvious. We have millions of gallons of raw sewage that flow every single year, sometimes multiple times over the course of a week, and they pollute a particular region. Like, you can see the negative effects with your own eyes. Some areas where we've actually seen it affect our people, with our US Customs and Border Patrol agents, and also with our US Navy SEALs. So back in 2019, US Customs and Border Patrol, they did some research to see how is this really affecting their personnel. And what they found is many personnel were getting sick. They were being subjected not just to raw sewage, but they're also being subjected to a lot of chemicals and pesticides that flow through the border along with the sewage.
The last 4 years, things have been worse than ever, really at a crisis point, where we've really pushed harder than ever and built a bigger team with lawsuits, with funding allocations, with visits to Mexico, with press conferences, like almost daily action to get this problem fixed.
The EPA staff members told us kind of behind the scenes, said, gosh, we really believe in this project. We think it's very worthwhile. But we were just really surprised at how quickly both Congress and the president were able to work together to appropriate funding for this project. And so to me, it's an example of what can be done when we have leaders that just kind of step up and let party affiliations go by the wayside and just focus on the greater good.
At the end of the day, the most important thing in life is to make sure that a little kid can go to the beach with their family. It's free. Honestly, if you think about what we learned in this COVID pandemic, spending time with your family outdoors, breathing clean air and clean water is what gives us life. It's the things that we remember when we're 90, right? And so when you take that away from people, it really causes them to suffer. And so that was the thing about what happened during COVID, is that our folks needed to go to the beach and escape, and they couldn't.